Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Mess. So today we're going to continue the series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, and we got a very fun and very unexpected video for you guys this evening, because 2 hours ago SRG320 did new commits to the Sega Saturn core, and we have a new unofficial build. That is right, the Saturn is back and it is improved and running a lot of other games that didn't used to run before so much better. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we have a Patreon link down below as well. But SRG320 did put up some patch notes when he did the commits to GitHub, so I'm testing all the games here to see how they are improved. And Marvel Super Heroes vs. Street Fighter was a game that basically did absolutely nothing the last few times I tested it. It's one of those games that always shows up on the requests as far as you guys wanting to see games tested, and I was never really able to get much footage out of it. I can say today that this game is 100% playable. I got to round 4 and it felt stable enough where I probably could have seen the credits scroll if I'd played this game more recently. But this is one of those classic Capcom fighting games. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it, and everyone remembers it, and it was one of those games everyone wanted to see running on the Sega Saturn core. Today you can play this game, and just so you know, I am testing all of these games on the single RAM build. I do have a dual RAM MiSTer, and I did check one crash out on both single and dual RAM, and it was replicatable across both cores. So if you have a single RAM build, you should be totally fine in anything you see in this video. But you can tell already this is definitely a lot better than crashing. Last time I tried to boot this game, I couldn't even get into the main menu. Now it seems like it's just completely fixed and everything is working as expected, which is awesome. Additionally, that means SRG320 is good. He just recently relocated and told people he was going to start working on the core again, and it seems like that work started very quickly, because like a week later we have this new build. It's always great to see him check in, and we know he is good where he is. But as far as the performance here is concerned, if there is anything out of line as to what this should perform like on the Saturn, I cannot tell. But generally, if I do play this game, I'm going to play the arcade version versus the Saturn version. So if you're more familiar with this title, leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think about the performance. But from the input to the music to the visuals to everything from start to finish, if this isn't 100% versus real hardware, you could not tell unless this was your favorite game of all time. And that's such a vast improvement compared to the previous core, where this game was basically not working whatsoever. And these are some of the best Sega Saturn 2D fighting games of all time, because the Saturn was a 2D powerhouse. So seeing them available here on MiSTer FPGA is just something short of spectacular. It's so exciting when we get new cores, whether it's Nintendo 64 or Sega Saturn, but we haven't seen a Saturn update in a while, so it's so much fun to get this. It's a real hot January for Saturn. We have the Castlevania Symphony of the Night patch, we have the Super Bomberman prototype, we have the new core as well, so it just seems like January is going to be the month of Sega Saturn. And I will do some more testing videos, so if there's something in particular you want to see retested on the new core, just leave me a comment down below and I will try to get to each and every one of them. Just be aware it does take me a minute or so to make these videos, so if you don't see your pick, it's not that I forgot, I just haven't gotten there yet. But let's move on to another game that never worked before that was in the patch notes on GitHub, and that is going to be Salamander 2. This is the Salamander Deluxe Pack, and I believe last time I tested it, the original Salamander and Life Force would both work, but Salamander 2 would not. And that is completely different today, because when you try to boot into Salamander 2, it is just working. And last time I tested this, you had to beat start like it owed you money to bypass this FMV cutscene, because it used to be that these would basically freeze the core all the time, and then it went that they would freeze the core sometimes, but I've let every single FMV play and run through its entirety in this batch of testing to make sure that there was no freezing on any of them, and I was not able to get the core to freeze whatsoever on any FMV playback, so that seems to be 100% sorted still. But let's get into Salamander 2. This is such a classic shmup. It is so much fun, and the Salamander Deluxe Pack on Sega Saturn is great. I do have it in my collection, and to get it here on MiSTer FPGA is just a nice bonus edition, because there are games that are compilations, and sometimes one of the games will run and the other won't currently, so getting the whole thing working now is just incredible. And the sound on this core is perfection too. Listen, and I'll be right back with more games.
Option. Missile. Ripple laser. Option B.
Definitely sounds like the Salamander I remember, and this being a completely 2D game, you get a sense of what VDP1 and VDP are doing, and VDP was listed in the GitHub updates. That is one of the two chips that's going to run basically anything visual you see on the Sega Saturn, because you had the Hitachi CPU, and then you have VDP1 and VDP2 doing all of the heavy lifting when it comes to actually drawing any sort of graphics, sprite, 2D background, polygon, or otherwise to Saturn. So it seems like a lot of that has been updated, and that makes sense because there was graphical glitches in another game I'm going to show you soon that have now been completely fixed. So that VDP rework and the little bit of additional code there must have either brought something online that wasn't there before or fixed something that wasn't 100% properly implemented. But if you've never played Salamander 2, definitely check it out on the new core. I got through stage 2, everything worked perfectly fine. I had no issues with audio, freezing, controller, otherwise, so it does seem like another game we could probably just see the credits scroll if you were good enough to actually do that, because this game pulls no punches. It is not easy whatsoever, and it's been like a year or two since I played it, so I definitely struggled a little bit on this one. But all of the loading between levels, which is seamless in the game on real hardware, is exactly the same here. You saw the transition to the next level, everything did just work, and all of the graphics look flawless. If there's any issues with anything on the screen, I have not been able to tell when I watch this for playback or for my voiceover. But again, I count on all you guys to take a look as well, so if you see anything that doesn't look like it should, leave me a comment down below and tell me the timestamp, and I will definitely check into it, because I do utilize your opinion and help a lot, because there's a lot more sets of eyes than just mine out there, and it does matter. But honestly, getting this game is great again. It's so much fun to see the Saturn core back in active development, because there was a bit of a pause. Now, on the X-Men vs. Street Fighter side, this is the game that used to have graphical glitches when you would get into the title menu, or if you'd get into the character select. It would basically almost invert the colors and draw semi-random garbage to the screen, and then it would freeze from there. You will see in the intro here, everything looks totally fine. These are the graphics you remember from X-Men vs. Street Fighter, and everything seems to be okay. Unfortunately, and I did confirm with multiple people testing this as well in the background, is that it now has a little bit of a freezing problem. The artwork looks totally fine, but it randomly freezes around the character select screen or when you first get into the game. It seems like the quicker you hit buttons, the more likely you are to actually load into a match like you'll see here, but it is going to freeze at some moment in time, and that is going to be relatively a random variable. One user on Mr. Discord got about 10 seconds of the first match in before it froze. You'll see here I almost get into a match the second time, and on my third attempt I'm going to be able to actually control my character, and it is going to freeze there. So graphically, this one has definitely improved, but it still seems like there's something in the core that needs a little bit of a change to actually be able to play the game. This was my most successful attempt here, and you're going to see the fight logo comes up, it clears off, I control my character, and it freezes in midair. So the next time there is a new core, I'll definitely be checking that game out first to see if it gets further. But Shining the Holy Ark here was another game that used to work with graphical glitches, but in recent cores it seemed to break for pretty much everyone. It would just freeze and it would never get back into the game. So whatever the updates are under the hood on the current Sega Saturn core as of today, that is definitely improved again. And I think maybe it was FMVs back when I tested it. It has been months and months and months since I last looked at this game, but I remember last time I tried to retest it, I could not even get into the title screen, let alone the actual gameplay. So this is 100% improved from not working whatsoever. You'll see here the FMV cutscene plays, we get into the title screen, and you can get into the game as well. Now obviously this is a very long game, so it's not like I was able to test too far in. It's possible that it freezes like 20 seconds after I stop playing the game. It's equally as possible that you can finish it, see the credits scroll, and have an absolute great time. And as you test these, leave me comments down below and tell me what you find, because I would be curious. I take your guys' notes, give feedback, and kind of use that for future videos, so do tell me what you've been testing and how it's been going. But again, amazing audio quality. Listen for 30 seconds and I'll be right back. Now, obviously, with this core just being a few hours new as of the recording of this voiceover and like 5 hours new as you watch it, I have not checked every single game in the library, but the sound quality is exceptional, and I did not have any audio that would basically make your ears bleed if you had headphones on. That's not to say that there isn't some sort of over-amplified audio situation going on somewhere in the core, but for all the games I didn't test it, and that was something that I mentioned in pretty much every previous core update and testing video, that you might want to start with your volume low and then raise it from there, because sometimes the core would just have very loud volume. Not sure if that's been fixed, but I could not encounter anywhere. Now moving on to the game, not listed in the patch notes, but I know a lot of you have been asking about the new Sega Saturn version of Symphony of the Night Ultimate 1.0 does work on the current core. I tested it on the previous core just to tell you guys that it worked, but it is working exactly the same in the current core as of today, and this is definitely one you should check it if you haven't. I have a link to the whole video on how this happened in the description down below, but this is another amazing game that you can play on MiSTer FPGA today, and it's one that I wanted to test a little bit deeper for this new core, because it's awesome to have all of these different English translations paired together with enhancement patches and that 4MB RAM expansion working as well. I did select the 4MB RAM expansion for this test, everything loaded up fine, the data cache, and it was a better performing Castlevania than if you didn't have that 4MB RAM expansion, and obviously that's something that the core can handle, and it handles it perfectly fine here. And there's going to be so many games to test from previous videos, games that had glitches, games that had issues, because last time I tested this, I do believe that there were some graphical glitches that I'm not getting here, but it has been a while since I played this outside of that previous video. But again, if you're looking for a new game to test on the current core, definitely check out the new version of Symphony of the Night. It is just spectacular. Some people don't like the PSP voiceover dialogue that's been added in. I totally understand that, but it's not too bad, and honestly, having a new version of this game for Saturn is just great. And I have played this game so many times in my life on real hardware, on emulation, PlayStation 1 and Saturn, and I do not detect anything here whatsoever in the audio, in the gameplay, in the graphics that makes me think this is anything other than a perfect rendition of one of my favorite games of all time. And that is the nice thing about games I'm super familiar with. I can pretty much always spot when they're doing something weird, whether it's the controls, the performance, or otherwise. This just seems like the real hardware experience on MiSTer FPGA, and that is incredible. And this core is definitely shaping up really well, and I can't wait to see what the next 3 months for Saturn bring, now that SRG 320 has relocated himself and seems to have more of the ability to work on this thing, because you guys have been asking why it hadn't updated in a while, and I'm sure that's because his life was a little bit hectic and he just needed to move on with some stuff. But now he is updating again, and that's just amazing, and I can't wait to see what the next 3, 4, 6 months are for the Sega Saturn core, because this is quickly becoming my favorite way to play Sega Saturn. I do have an extensive Saturn library. I've got a lot of hardware, and I usually play it on my PVM, but honestly, playing around with MiSTer has been great as well. But let's move on to another game that was in the patch notes, and that is a Linkle Liver Story. It is one of the weirdest titles for a game. It was hard for me to even get that out. I had to try twice because I wanted to say the wrong title, but it does work now. Now this game I've tried to play more than once, and I will definitely tell you, it does not hold your hand. The game opens up, it drops you into an overworld, and you basically have no real idea what's going on, and the map always seems to be really hard to navigate. So if you like this game, leave me a comment down below. I would be curious. Tell me why you enjoy it and what I should do differently, because I've never in the past, when I've tried to play this title, been able to really get into it and enjoy it. But it is working here on MiSTer FPGA. It's in English and you can enjoy it. And it does have a lot of good 2D artwork, and that's why I do want to actually try to start playing this game. But this is another one. Last time I tested it, it didn't work whatsoever. Now we are in game. You have audio, you have music, you have everything that you would need for this to actually be playable. But like all of these tests, again, I don't know. Maybe it freezes 5, 10, 20 minutes after I stop recording, because so many different things happen in a game, and so many different areas might make a call to the hardware that hasn't been called yet in my capture. So just don't think because you see a game running here in the first 5 or 10 minutes means that it's 100% playable from start to finish. Give it a day or two. People usually figure these things out. But again, amazing audio quality with a great soundtrack. One more demo and I'll be right back, but enjoy because it is good. And again, awesome sound quality, and that stereo separation was working. You might not know if you weren't wearing headphones, but I listened to the music in my studio monitors and that stereo separation came through perfectly. And again, the audio is at a normalized volume. Don't take me at that. That means every single game is going to do it, but at least if you're playing these here, you should not have any audio levels that are going to be above what you would want them to. But again, as I run around the world of this game, I'm just never quite sure what to do. I get a little note saying that I have to go to the Western Woods, but I never actually find an entrance. I'm sure it's there and I'm sure I'm just missing it, but you'll see here the loading in between levels, you go to a black screen and everything does work. And that was something that used to happen in previous cores as well. Sometimes when you would load from one area to the next or one level to the next, you would never actually get out of that load. It would drop some sort of data and it would crash from there. But this game, at least as far as you've seen here, is playable. But the real takeaway is Marvel vs. Street Fighter. This is absolute perfection, and it is a game that barely worked last time I tried it. I can't actually remember if it ever did work. I've tested so many games in this series. If you've watched me test this, tell me down below, because I couldn't go back and watch like 40 different videos looking for one individual data point. But if you want to play this game or any other game on the list today that isn't X-Men vs. Street Fighter, then you should be 100% good to go, and that is incredible. But that is the news for today. Nobody saw it coming. The Sega Saturn core has been updated as of January 10th around like 10 a.m. You're watching this at 4 p.m., so it is still brand new. But if you have any issues, leave me a comment down below. And be aware that as of the recording of this video, it has not yet made it to update all. It is on unstable nightly builds on the MiSTer FPGA Discord. It is possible that it's on update all as of the time you watch this, but if it doesn't come down, now you know. Leave me some testing requests down below, but I'll see you guys next time. Go play some Saturn. Bye-bye.